Okay, hello everybody. Um, thanks for coming. Thanks for coming today. My name is Christian Hastad. I'm an artist based in Austin, Texas, currently. Um, which button do I press?
Just the next button. Yeah.
Okay. We're gonna just dive right into it. The image is a little washed out, but I hope you can still make out the general details, and I'll also describe some things further as I go. This first image is for some context on my practice. I recently finished my MFA in studio art at the University of Texas at Austin. During my first year there, I was focusing on large installation-based paintings and sculptures. Pictured here is an installation of my series titled The Gate 2024. Coming into grad school, my practice was rooted very much in understanding the world through a digital lens. I was influenced by writers and philosophers such as Byung-Chul Han, Hitosh Darrell, and Franco Berardi. These contemporary thinkers often posit our current environment as one of acceleration, destabilization, and disorientation. With screens and technology increasingly becoming actors of chaos and distraction in our lives. For The Gate, I wanted to create an installation that represented these theories, positing our modern day environments within the mythology of the underworld, specifically the gates of hell and Cerberus, seen here as a 3D printed statue. Cerberus is an all-consuming entity, which I felt was an appropriate motif for representing the massive stores of data and amounts of information that we now consume on a daily basis. So Cerberus was 3D modeled and then 3D printed in sections and glued together. It's sitting atop a black velvet coated pedestal, and in the background, there's 7 4x4 canvas panels that are custom shaped, and it's a mixture of oil painting and printing on canvas, as well as airbrush and mark making. Fast forwarding a year, my thesis project in graduate school was Northern Dawn 2025. This series maintained a skepticism towards our increasingly digital lives. However, I tied it more to the past instead of being speculative on the present. After my grandmother passed, she left a small archive of 35mm photographs that documented her travels through Norway. I'm Norwegian, by the way. I felt a great distance from this past and this heritage. My grandmother was the last direct family member I had that still spoke fluent Norwegian. And she was also the last of my direct family to have actually been in Norway. This was in the 70s. I took the physical 35mm archive and digitized it, consuming it through a screen rather than through my grandmother's personal interpretations. This distance caused me to see the images as synthetic artifacts, frozen in time, inevitably inaccessible to my understanding. I would take reproductions of the images, print them onto canvas or hand paint them, and sink them in layers of dyed resin. These images became objects, translucent symbols of my attempt to reconnect with a lost past. And there's a detailed shot of one of them. And at this point, I will also hand out my current resin pieces. You can pass these around. They're literally indestructible, so don't worry. And it's also okay if you smudge them with fingerprints, you can wipe them off very easily. And for this one too, I just was using one of my grandmother's images as a reference, and I was painting it with acrylic and oil and then layering the resin. So you can see on the side, there's kind of a more like sap green layer, and then on top is more of like a lighter teal layer. Okay. In my current series, I began taking a similar approach to understanding more mundane, everyday life moments. I capture thousands of images on my iPhone every few weeks. I think in total, my iPhone photo library is probably maybe at least 100,000 photos or so, which is a lot of photos. And I was thinking about that too in context of my grandmother in her lifetime took maybe 400 photos. And I'm 30 years old and I have taken over 100,000. So I've kind of generated an archive of my own that I can kind of dig through with the same level of intent. And I choose to tightly crop these images and render them using thin layers of oil paints. So this is one titled 1111. And this is one that is currently being passed around. Through this approach, the compositions inherit an aesthetic akin to nostalgia. Only instead of being nostalgic for a distant past, it is nostalgia pointed towards events that may have happened just days prior. This was an image of a rabbit I took at a local county fair, projected it onto a wood panel, rendered it using graphite really quite quickly, and then I sunk it in resin. And Lisa is looking at it as we speak. And here's another one too. I believe that in many ways, what is that? I believe that in many ways. Oh, okay. Sorry. So I'm talking about nostalgia and events that have happened. Instead of looking towards the distance past, looking towards moments that happened basically, in the last week or last day. That is kind of what digital content has a tendency of doing to us, because the current moment is now more documentable or photographable as it has ever been. We all have a phone in our pocket, and at any moment we can take it out and take a photo. And this is a very new advent in the timeline of human civilization. Yet these moments often live in our phone storage without ever being looked at again. Time unravels much differently due to this. To absent-mindedly record a concert on your phone or take a photo of a plate of food, remember the motto, phones eat first, is to separate our experience with the present. It is to greedily stow the present in a file on your phone rather than to bask in the immediate perception of it. I also created more resin casts, of which I brought a few examples. And I treat these very similar to those in my series Northern Dawn. But again, instead of being photographs from a distant and disconnected past, they are snapshots and images from recent moments. I believe in this way, I have essentially been working towards creating an instantaneous and synthetic archive of the present as it happens, which is complicated, for it truly is all in my attempt to simply experience these moments more intentionally with the tools that we have at hand in our contemporary environment. For the final pieces in this series, I created two modular paneled pieces. I call them timekeepers. They are largely abstract and act as broken, disfigured clocks of our modern visual culture. This work will be exhibited in St. Paul, Minnesota next month for my first solo gallery show since graduating my MFA. It is titled Timekeeper and will be at After Hours Gallery opening May 15th. So there's a detail shot. These ones I was more interested in the formal element and how you can take the elements of a simple clock and start to make things parallel instead of always intersecting. I'm an analog watch wearer myself. I don't like digital watches, but recently in the past, I think 3 months, I've had about like 3 of my watches die, which is strange because the batteries usually last a while. So for it to happen in succession like that, made me think about the fragile nature of time and our experience of it. So these ones remained, like I said, abstract and relatively formal, but that's all I've got. Yeah. Questions?
I have one.
Okay.
When you choose like what image you were like deciding to render into a painting, is it based off of like a memory? Like, do you choose like a specific moment, or is it just like more aesthetic?
I think it is a combination of both, because I'm attempting to find images that are both recognizable, but also in a way almost like iconic. Like a plate of peaches is very much just like still life. There it is. So it's kind of acting as like iconic reservoirs of what could be a very personal memory to try and expand it past just, this is a photo of me eating peaches, and it becomes just like the iconic store of like that event. It's ubiquitous, it's generic almost in its presentation. Same with this, everybody's iPhone has that font, and it shows 1111 twice a day, so it's like transferable in that way. So yeah, yeah.
Can you say a little bit more about why you put the painting inside the acrylic? Is it just to keep it from fingerprints or?
No, it's more so an act of attempting to archive it. I think when I started passing them around, I noted they're indestructible. And for the most part, they are. I mean, if you put it in the earth, it's going to take it a while to decompose. In the context of my grandmother's archive, I liked it as a process because A, it literally archives the image in material that then keeps it safe from exterior forces. And B, it then makes the image inaccessible. It starts to fog the image. It makes it so you can't access the surface any longer. So it kind of has that double intention of being both an act of preserving and also an act of symbolizing the inaccessibility of it. So.
That's such a delicate thing that you chose to put under that.
Yeah. Yeah, and it is a big juxtaposition between like a tenderly rendered image with so much care, and then to just cover it and put it in a bunch of plastic sauce. Like, yeah, you're kind of strangling it by attempting to maintain its delicacy and preserve it. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you.